Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Happy Sunday, as we say here in Nigeria. Thanks for joining us. Today, we are having a conversation about living with a double uterus and a double cervix. My dear friend Lana Douglas will be joining us to share her story. So, do you send in, let your friends know that this conversation is happening? So hopefully she joins us soon and I'll be able to add her on. We can start. Where are you all joining us from? Hello, Unique. Hello, I am Ola. Let's wrap and pack. Hello, thanks for joining us. How you all doing? Today's conversation, as I said earlier, is about living with a double uterus and a double cervix. So Lana Douglas will be joining us to share her story and let us know how that has impacted her fertility journey so far. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. How are you? Okay, I think Lana has joined us now, so hopefully she'll send a request to be added and I can add her on. So, Lana, if you can just, okay, perfect. Yay. I've sent the request now. Let's see. Still showing. Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Wow, you look amazing. I love your
You
hair
too,
and
thank
your accessories
you. I always have
and
to
all the
try.
colors.
Always. How are you?
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
Is it
you.
cold today?
Yes, it's cold here. It is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Nigeria, it's really hot.
Really? We get
Always
a little
hot.
bit of weather here.
Always hot. Okay, so perfect. I noted the topic down there and pin it up so people can see.
Yes.
So I'll just let's start on. I'll make a little introduction and then I'll let you carry on.
Sure.
So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today to have this wonderful conversation. Alana Douglas joins us from the United States to speak about her condition, living with a double uterus and a double cervix, and how that has impacted her fertility journey so far. So thank you all for joining us. Alana is her other name is the Chief Hope Officer. And if you do follow her page, you will know that she definitely does a lot to inspire and encourage us all on a daily basis. And we really love her. So thank you so much, Lana, for all that you do.
Thank
And so glad to have you here with us today. So over to you if you want to introduce yourself a little bit before we get into the conversation of today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This
Yay.
is an honor that you see. I follow you and all the things that you do to share for our community and support and inspire others that are going through fertility and reproductive health issues. So I appreciate all that you're doing because it takes a brave person, someone with courage, to be vulnerable and transparent. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Lana Douglas. I am the Chief Hope Officer. Oh, excuse me, I'm so nervous. I don't know why.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm the Chief Hope Officer of Hope Still Stands. That's a journey that I started after having my first daughter, and it's dealing with from hatred to hope, all the things that I've been through. I'm using it now to share my story after I found healing, to share my story to help others, everyone else that's going through fertility, and any like low self-esteem or not loving yourself. So I'm just using every opportunity that I can to share my story. I've been married for 18 years. I have two miracle daughters that I'm so grateful for, and just do everything that I can to share my story. I'm a worshiper. I'm a missionary in my church, and I just want to be a vessel, a willing vessel for all the women and little girls out there.
Thank you so much. And we appreciate everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
So about your condition, living with a double uterus and a double cervix, I know that is known as Didelphys Uterus. So if
Yes.
you could speak to the people watching that don't know what that is, if
Yeah.
you could tell us a bit about that condition and what it's meant to you and your fertility journey so far.
Yeah. So at the age of 10, I'm gonna tell a little bit of this first to kind of like give a background and a foundation of where I found out that I have a Didelphis uterus. So when I started my period at the age of 10, I started to have these uh, I guess as a 10-year-old, I realized that I would have my period for a couple of days on and pain and cramps on one side. And then like 4 days later, I would start cramping on my other side. And throughout, getting into teenage years and having accidents on myself, and my mom would take me to the doctor, and they would say, well, there's no cervix visible. When I got my first pap smear at the age of 15, they said there's no cervix visible. We didn't get any further testing. They didn't recommend us to see a specialist. So we just were like, okay, my cervix is invisible. And as the years went by, I would have, like, my stomach would swell up. And then after my stomach couldn't take anymore, everything would come out. So that would be at school. I would be at home in my bed. I would be sitting on the couch. I would get up and it would be, I'm going to say it frankly, blood everywhere. And I'm like, what is going on? I mean, the embarrassment, as young ladies, we're already going through our period and you feel like somebody's watching you. And then on top of that, having accidents, stomach swelling up, having horrible cramps, and not understanding what was going on with my body. So I started to feel like my body betrayed me. I started to feel like I wasn't good enough. So not until I found this specialist in my mid-20s, I think this is probably like 15 years later, already knew I was born with one kidney, but I'm dealing with these horrible periods and not understanding what's going on with my body. I had this thorough examination done where she had to go vaginally and anally. And she said, you know what? I think you have two uteruses. And I'm just like, what? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I never understood. What do you mean? Like, all this time I've been saying, why am I having a period for 3 to 4 days? And then on my right side, I will start cramping and having another period for 3 to 4 days. Well, that's because with a Didelphis uterus, you have two separate systems. Most women have one uterus, so you have one cycle. Well, I would have 2 cycles a month because it's 2 separate systems. So with the Didelphis uterus, most women that have it have a double uterus, so it's 2 horns, it looks like a heart, and sometimes it's a split septum on the bottom where you have 2 cervixes. So I also have 2 cervixes. Some women, like Special Lady Awareness, I am grateful that I connected with her. She has a double vagina also. So there's various ways you can have a Didelphis uterus. There's also a bicornate uterus where you just have 2 horns and 1 cervix. There's a unicornate uterus where you have half a uterus. So think about that. You're trying to leave, you don't know, you're going to, with your spouse, try to have a baby, you can't get pregnant, you go to the doctor, oh, you know what? You only have half a uterus. These things weren't talked about. I never knew about that. There's so many different uteruses that a woman can have. Never knew that. So not until my mid-20s that I found out that I had a double uterus and a double cervix.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I keep saying wow because I cannot imagine how that must have felt to even listen to that.
Yes, I was overwhelmed, frustrated. Then I also say I was upset, frustrated, angry with myself. I was angry with my body. My poor mother, I call her mommy. My mommy, she was like, well, maybe when I was pregnant with you, I took, this cough medicine. Maybe she felt guilty. I'm like, mommy, it's not your fault. The doctor that told me to tell my mother, it wasn't her fault. It happens sometimes. But as a mother, you feel like it's your fault that your child is born a certain way. Of course. A side note for anyone out there who is a mother and you feel like you have a child and God forbid something happens, you feel like it's your fault. So sometimes you can't take that guilt on yourself. You have to pray that your child finds healing and whatever the circumstance is, but don't take that guilt for yourself. But as a side note, but yeah, my mother thought it was, you know, her fault that it happened. But it was part of me feeling angry and upset. But the other part of me was like, it was validation. Finally, I've been saying this from the age of 10, 15, 21, 22, being, you know, rushed to the emergency room, calling out from work. I would have to, sometimes I was working at the prenatal assessment center at this major hospital. I was in so much pain that they had to put me in a room for the rest of the day. I couldn't even work. Thank God they didn't fire me, you know? So it was validation on one side, but also I was upset with myself for, I felt like my body wasn't enough.
Yeah. And the validation is so important, right? Because sometimes it's hard to feel, maybe it's in your head, right? Because you keep going all this time and everyone says everything is fine. And you think, well, something is not fine.
Right.
But until you actually get that confirmation, and it feels like, finally, there you go. I was right. It was just not in my head. And that's what happens for many conditions that women have, right? For even endometriosis. Some people go for years without being diagnosed, and people just tell you, you know, never worry, just take painkillers and it's going to be fine. But thankfully, you found someone that actually listened, because like you will tell us, you know, later, it actually did impact your fertility. And if you don't know, like in your case, like you said, it seemed like you had two periods each month. But apart from that, for anyone listening or watching, are there any symptoms, or do people just have to get checked before knowing? I mean, and check the right doctor, right? The one that's going to listen, because again, you got checked several times, but didn't know until somebody was actually willing to explore further and find out what was happening.
Exactly. So when I would go to the emergency rooms or see my doctor, they would say, well, let's send you for ultrasound. Let's send you for MRI. And all they could see was this. First, it was a golf ball size cyst. Then it grew into like an orange, grew into a grapefruit. Well, that was my right uterus filling with blood. So they think it's a cyst on my cervix, on my ovary, but it was actually my right uterus filling with blood. So my right cervix was closed. So when I said earlier that my stomach would swell up, well, that was because my right uterus couldn't take it no more. So it would swell up, look like I'm 6 months pregnant. And then when it couldn't take anymore, it would finally seep out. And in my case, I found recently, I know I don't want to jump forward, but I found out recently that my two uteruses like this, but my cervixes are the opposite.
Wow.
So my uterus but it's twisted on the bottom. So that's a whole nother. So symptoms, if your pains are horrible, you're having accidents on yourself, your stomach is swelling up, it could be you have a double uterus, could be a unicornate uterus or anything like that. It could be fibroids. It could be, it's all these things are connected. I really feel, because I also have fibroids, and, you know, I don't want to jump forward, but I feel like all these things, when you are diagnosed with, you know, the double uterus, most likely you're going to have something else too. It's just, I've just learned, because it was just like back to back to back, that I found out all these other diagnoses. I was just overwhelmed. I literally was like to a point of losing my mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you say that and saying how the cervix was the other way around, that it shouldn't be. So it just sounds even more of a miracle, that the fact that you now have two beautiful children, like you noted earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps it's a good time to just speak about how this condition impacted your fertility and a little bit of your fertility journey so far, so we understand how that it is still possible. Because I'm sure people are probably wondering, is it still possible to have children considering the condition itself? So please share as much as little as you'd like. Thank you.
Sure. Yes, it is possible. At the moment in my 20s, I didn't think it was possible. I married my husband at the age of 22. Think about, for the man's perspective,
Yeah.
you're dead. You're newlywed. You just want to have fun. And then it was like, I told him from jump, I have horrible periods. I was named the girl with horrible periods. So I had to give him, a heads up. He's like, okay, and I'm like, there's going to be times where I'm in so much pain. And I appreciated his support. Like, he supported me. He helped me getting heating pads and just held me when I was going through pain. So after getting diagnosed with a double uterus, I was also told that I had 3 fibroids. I was also told that I had endometriosis. So I'm like, okay, I have 1 kidney, double uterus, double cervix, fibroids, endometriosis. I'm in my 20s. I'm a young lady. You're expecting to just live your life and just be happy. I'm thinking, what's the next doctor's appointment? Okay, I need to schedule my surgery. Okay, I have to make sure I get all my pre-op stuff. Like, it was just overwhelming, and we're basically still newlyweds. And so during that time frame in my 20s, I had 3 surgeries. One to remove endometriosis. That was literally my fallopian tubes on each side of my uteruses were entangled to both sides of my uteruses. I also had my cervix opened, my right cervix. And so I went through that. That part alone is just because I had to walk around with I think it's called a UB catheter, go to work with this thing hanging so they can keep it open. So they had to do the surgery. I had to have like this bulb catheter, I think that's what it's called. And so, sorry, let me cut my so bulb catheter hanging, going to work, driving around with this, thing hanging. So then I had to go back and get it removed. And so it was just a lot. And so my doctor, my reproductive endocrinologist, God bless her, Dr. Altman, I just love her. She's the one that diagnosed me. She said, you know what? Years have passed by. Let's start looking at some infertility, treatments, some fertility treatments for you and your husband to try because you all are not getting pregnant. And so we tried to do Clomid first. So the thing about Clomid, when you have a double uterus, you can get pregnant with twins. Or with a double uterus, I can get pregnant
in each one
at the same time. So say if 4 embryos were, that came about that I got pregnant, I can have twins on one side of the uterus, in one uterus, have twins on the other uterus. Now think about that. It's a smaller area.
Wow.
I know things that I had no idea that this could even happen.
Yeah.
So it's a very tight area. So if you have twins in this tight area, you know that most likely going to have preterm labor and be on bed rest. So she was like, let's try Clomid. My husband and I tried Clomid. For months, trying Clomid, still not getting pregnant. Taking pregnancy tests. I don't know how many pregnancies I've bought over my lifetime. Pregnancy tests, ovulation kits, put a pillow under your back. The whole, okay?
Yeah.
It comes more of a robot type feeling, not just loving each other. That's the key also on your fertility journey. Remember to love your spouse, because you feel like a robot. Okay, we got to do this. Okay, get the shot, do this. No, don't forget about the love. Or fertility, before babies, before all that, it was the two of you together. But at the moment, I was a robot. I see it now, but I didn't see it then. So we did Clomid, did get pregnant. Time is flying by. So she said, let's try IUI. She said, no, what? We can't do IUI because you have a double cervix. IUI won't work for you. So we're going to try in vitro fertilization. So we're like, okay, this is the only way. There's no other way. We haven't got pregnant. I've done surgeries. Clomid doesn't work. Okay, we're going to do IVF. We were like gun-ho. We didn't seek the Lord about it. We didn't pray about it. We just felt like this is the only way. So my husband does my injections. I'm driving back and forth to, the fertility clinic, the whole 9, and do this blood work. I'm like, I'm such a robot now. That's how I felt. Go to work, do my blood work, check my ovulation, do the shot in my stomach. It was just a lot. So the time comes when we do our transfer. I was so optimistic. I cried. I was so happy. My husband pulled me together. Like, oh my gosh, we are going to be pregnant. This is it. Yeah. At this point, it's about 7 years. Now, I said time has passed by. Think about that. It's about 6.5, 7 years have passed by. And in the back of my mind, I'm feeling depressed. But on the front, I'm like, I'm optimistic. This is it. So they called us and said, one day we're going to call you guys in the afternoon. Make sure you're home. We're going to give you your results. So we're huddled. Me and my husband huddled on the couch. And we get the phone and they call. I'm like, oh my gosh, here's the moment. And she said, Mr. and Mrs. Douglas, it's negative. I remember the wailing cry that came out of my mouth. I dropped the phone. My husband picks up the phone. He was like, you're kidding, you're kidding. I am screaming and crying at the top of my lungs. Like, how? After all we've been through, you mean to tell me after all this money, the financial, I mean, it going through fertility and all these being diagnosed, and it's financially, emotionally, physically, mentally draining, literally draining our bank account, draining our minds, draining our hearts. My body was drained. I was so tired, looking down at my belly and seeing the surgical scars and the needle marks. And I was so overwhelmed that I was hurt. I was depressed. I couldn't believe it. My husband and I were in shock. And I questioned God. I was like, how? Other people get pregnant? No problem. How they treat people. Look how nasty. We're nice people. We do the right thing. We go to church. We're Christians. I was jealous. I was so jealous of other women, of other couples. That was my lowest point when they told us that you're not pregnant. I couldn't even imagine and understand. And when I look back of how I felt at that time, how my husband felt at that time, how I felt, we were hurt. We were hurting. So after we did that, there was a point where my husband was working night shift. So this is like 7 years had passed. He was working night shift, and I was home by myself. It was at night. So I walk into my kitchen and I'm looking at the butcher board where all the knives are. I'm standing there, I'm looking at it. I'm like, you know what? I can't give my husband a child. I've already gone through all this. My body, look what my body has betrayed me. Like I'm not good enough. My body's not good enough. I'm not woman enough. So that was my lowest. And I remember looking at each knife, saying which one will be sharp enough to cut my throat. I see one that was more of a with the serrated edges. I'm like, this is the one that's sharp enough. This is it's time to end it. Why are you still here? And God said to me, Leanna, your life has a purpose. Hope still stands. That's where that comes from. My middle name is Hope, but I never knew what hope meant, because from childhood on, dealing with bad periods, being told I was ugly, too dark. So I already had those dark clouds hovering. But when we did not get pregnant, it was just like everywhere I went, I had those dark clouds. I could not see my way through it. And I thought the way I can get through it was killing myself. But I thank God that I did not go through with that. I thank God. After that, I told my husband, you know, you can move on. I said, you can marry somebody else. Move on. Why are you wasting your time with me? And he said, I love you with or without children. And he said, why don't we just focus on each other? Let's not think about having children right now. And so we did that. Time went on. One day I woke up and I said, I'm going to take a pregnancy test today. I said, I'm not going to tell my husband. I just have this urge to take it today. I don't know why. So I go to take the test. Long story short, I take the test, and it said that I was pregnant, that we were pregnant. It was positive. I see this plus sign. I'm like, wait, what does this mean? Because I'm only seeing negative. I'm only seeing the line, the no, not pregnant. I'm like, what does plus mean? So I'm screaming. My husband runs upstairs. What's wrong? What's wrong? So my husband was downstairs when I woke up. And I have to tell you what he was doing when he was downstairs. So he comes upstairs. I'm like, babe, it's a plus sign. Like, it says I'm pregnant, but there's no way I'm pregnant. He was like, he looked at the box, he looked at the test. He was like, you're pregnant. I was like, you're lying. No. He was like, you're pregnant. My mother Call my mommy. And she said, I'm coming. We went to the doctor, and come to find out we were pregnant. By the grace of God. But what my husband was doing downstairs, he was on the floor laying, praying, and reading about Hannah, how Hannah prayed for her son, how she petitioned God for her son. That's exactly what he was doing when I went to go take my pregnancy test.
Wow.
God does all things well. So now our oldest, she's 10 years old. After 8 years of infertility and all those surgeries and diagnoses and
treatments,
depression and treatments, she's 10 years old today. Her name is Olivia. So if I would have killed myself, there would be no her. You wouldn't even see me right now. So I thank God that I didn't go with that. So when you see my Instagram, Hope Still Stands, it has a real meaning behind it. It's not just a name I just came up with, like the fertility conversations. It has a meaning behind it. It's a story behind it. So I'm just grateful. So that's the first part of the story.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm sure you've seen many wows, because it's just, there's so much. Firstly, I'm so thankful, for you here today, for your life, and for God speaking to you at that time and ensuring that you didn't go through that.
Yeah.
But those feelings of, not feeling worthy at all is so common when dealing with infertility and fertility delays, right? Because people just feel like, if I can't do this, because, we've been taught for so long that as a woman, that's part of why you're here, that you should be able, that's like the most basic thing you should be able to do. Mm-hmm. But, so when you can't do that, you start feeling like, well, then what can I do then? Why am I here? Or, so I'm so glad that you saw beyond that. I'm so also thankful for your husband for saying those really, really important and comforting words then, acknowledging the fact that you're more than just, a mother to be, right? Like, you're his wife and he's happy to be with you, and the relationship is really important. So I think we need to hear more of that, because without children, you're still amazing, you're still worthy, right? And we need to hear that more often, and we want to ensure that our younger girls are hearing that as well. So that way they don't feel like motherhood is the only reason why they're here. Right? So thank God for your life, and thank God, for such a miracle daughter and daughters, as you will say later. But it's amazing that after all those treatments, all that, and then it just happened just like that.
Naturally.
Just like that.
It's amazing. I can't express it. I know now why it happened the way it did. Because my life is more than just LaAnna.
Yeah.
It's other couples, other women out there, because they'll think, well, I did IVF, I didn't get pregnant, or I had the surgery and the fibroids grew back. Whatever the case may be, I was supposed to go on this journey, even though it was so painful at times, so that I can be a testimony for someone else.
Yes.
I really see, when I look back, in my 20s, I didn't see it. But now when I look back, I'm like, I went down this journey, the ups and downs with my husband, even before that, dealing with sexual abuse, even before that, dealing with kids bullying me in school. I went down this journey because I'm supposed to reach someone that's suffering in silence. We are supposed to reach people that are suffering in silence. Right now, there's someone that's contemplating suicide. Right now, there's someone that's looking at a negative pregnancy test. So it's bigger than just us as individuals. So I didn't see it then, but I definitely see it now. It's bigger than me.
Yes. And thank you for not keeping your experience to yourself.
Thank you.
So I think sometimes it can be easier, right, after you have that child or those children, to say, well, I finally have what I always wanted, and you kind of, life goes on, right? You move forward with everything else. But then to remember that you were once in that place of hope and hopelessness and needing support. So choosing to share your story is so important.
Yes.
And so helpful for so many, and reaching so many. So thank you for all that you're doing and for sharing, because it's not so easy, right? Because I mean, infertility itself, thank you. Bola 122511 said you just ministered to her.
So much.
And
Bless you.
that's amazing. Akua, she said she's been so sad.
Oh, I'm so sorry. God is with you. And the thing about it, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
No, please go.
We are in this together. It doesn't matter the distance, doesn't matter what country we live in. When we are a part of this fertility community, we're in this together. And it doesn't matter what part of the journey you're on. It could be the beginning, starting out. It could be now that you're a mother of 5 children. We still are connected. We're still supposed to lean on each other. It's a sisterhood. So I'm grateful that what I said ministered to you, but know that you are not alone. When I was on the journey, I felt like I was by myself. Even with my husband, my parents, my siblings, family around me, I still feel like, but I'm the only one.
Yeah.
There's nobody else going through this. They have children over there. They're taking their kids, to the park. I'm still in this. I'm still in this pain and in this doldrum of pain. I'm still in it. So you feel like you're alone, but you're not. You're not alone. You were here for a reason to hear this, because you're not alone. We're in this together. And even when you have those moments of feeling lonely and sad, for me, my faith in God, you're never alone, because he's always there. That's number one for me. He's always there. If you are feeling alone, please reach out to someone just to talk to them. Let them know how you're feeling. Just say, I need you to listen. A lot of times on my journey, I just needed somebody to listen to it, what I was going through. Even if I'm saying it over and over again, okay? I had another pregnancy test and I'm crying. It's that tears of crying, that pain, even though it's another pregnancy test and you had a negative pregnancy test last month, that pain is still the same. So sometimes I just need to tell someone, hey, the test was negative again. And all I need them to do is listen, not judge, not say, why are you telling me this? Not say, well, it was negative last month, so what does it matter? It's negative again. Sometimes you just need somebody to listen. So I'm thank you so much for sharing that, and you are not alone.
Thank you. And it can feel very lonely, right? Because in fertility, people don't really speak about it because there's so much stigma attached to it, right? Globally, it doesn't matter where you go, there's a lot of stigma attached to it. So the more the fact that we're not actually speaking about it, then people that are actually dealing with it feel even more alone, because then oftentimes you're surrounded by people that all seem to have children so easily, and then you feel like it's just you. What is wrong with you? Why you? Why isn't it happening for you?
Right.
So knowing that, and Bola, please, I hope like Lana said, you can always reach out. Please, if you're not following Lana already, please follow her, and you can also reach out to her and connect. It's always good to speak to someone that understands what you're going through or has been through something similar. So please reach out.
Please.
So Lana, I was saying that knowing how stigmatized infertility is, and knowing how lonely it can be in any community, but even more so sometimes with Black families or people. Why did you choose to speak out? Because again, you've now gotten to the point where you now have your daughter Olivia, and it's easy to say, hey, my daughter is here now. I can forget those previous 7 or 8 years. Why did you decide to start sharing in spite of the fact that it's so highly stigmatized, speaking about topics like this?
Yes. So I started to share because I felt like there's somebody else that probably went through the same thing or are going through the same thing. Especially in our communities, mental health, we don't talk about mental health. Especially when I was a kid, if this is just an example, if Uncle Ray had a breakdown, we just put him in the back room and that was it. Yeah. We didn't seek therapy or, talk to someone or talk to your pastor. We just kept it silent. Or even if you did, you didn't tell anyone that you were going to therapy.
Exactly.
Same thing with fertility. It's like, if I'm going through this, I've experienced this, and now I may be on the other side of it, it's still a part of me. I can't shake that feeling of, I remember what it's like when I didn't have a baby. When I look at my children every day, I'm like, I remember when. Sometimes I just cry, especially my baby, my youngest. I still break down in tears sometimes because I'm like, my 22-year-old self would never imagine my 41-year-old self. She couldn't see that. She thought she wasn't enough. My 26-year-old self could not imagine this 41-year-old self. Mirror images. We are mirror images of each other. So there's someone else that's out there that's in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, maybe even 50s, trying to conceive. And there's no one that looks like me going through this. There's no this. But no, you are not alone. There's other women out there going through the same thing, especially in the Black community. There's so that's why I felt like it was so important. Once I got the courage to say it, because it takes courage, like I said earlier. I had to gain that strength because at first I was nervous. So first I was just like, hey, I used to have low self-esteem, but now I don't. But then I started, revealing all the layers, the sexual abuse and going through infertility. Like when I started revealing it, I started to gain more strength. Like, this is important work. Yeah. It needs to be done. Because for all those people that are suffering in silence, that's why I have to use my voice. I have to continue to use my voice no matter what. Maybe afraid. There may be some people that don't like that I say what I say. They don't like the things that I'm speaking about, my faith, and that I'm still here. But for all of those that will receive it, I must continue to do what I'm doing. Because it's like I said, it's bigger than me.
What a wonderful voice.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I counted not an accident that my parents named me LaAnna Hope. When the Lord said, I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb, for them to call me, it's not by mistake, it's not by accident. So that's what I was going to say.
Well said. And I said that what a wonderful voice that you do have, speaking about infertility, just sharing your story, inspiring, because again, we need that encouragement and inspiration on a daily basis, right? Because dealing with infertility or fertility struggles or whatever it is people might be dealing with or struggling with, you just need the constant reassurance that it is possible and to keep hope alive and that better things can come in the near future. And as you were saying as well, I know Akua also know that constant positive reaffirmation is necessary for our young girls. So you speaking and sharing your story is very important and hopefully helping us to better prepare a younger generation on how to deal with infertility, fertility, or whatever else they might be dealing with. Just know that there are other people that are ahead of you that have dealt with something similar and they're there to hold your hands as well. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes. Good evening, Jay Berry. She noted hello here. So with infertility and all your struggles and delays, how has that impacted you as a person? Any changes? Do you feel any different than how you were before all of this?
Oh, yes. I am, especially the fact that I am 41 years old now. I am stronger. I'm more courageous. I feel more bolder. Like I have this boldness inside me now that I don't care what's going on. I'm going to share what I've gone through. And I feel like there's a new strength that is at another level. I look back and I always say I speak for my younger self because I'm like, I didn't know what strength was. I didn't understand the words that came out of my mouth make an impact. So I would speak negativity, a lot. I would say, well, I'm not pregnant and I'm worthless because I'm not pregnant. I would say those things out of my mouth. I'm ugly. Look at myself. I'm so ugly. Look at my stomach. I would say those words. Now I look at my stomach and they're my beauty marks. Yes. That's what I look at. I'm like, this is proof, all that I've been through, and I'm still here. I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, you are beautiful, Leanna.
Yeah.
You say matters. I will speak life and not death. I was to that point of death. That's, so I always remind myself that it's been almost 20 years from that point of starting with infertility. And I'm, 41 years old now. My life was supposed to end, in my mid-20s at age 27. But I'm still here for a reason. So that strength that I have now it's just at a new level. It really is.
Amen.
Yes.
And we're so thankful for that strength.
Thank you.
So you now have 2 daughters. You've spoken to us about how Olivia came to be. What about your second daughter?
So
and for people that have just joined us, knowing fully well that Lana has 2 uterus, 2 cervix, and fibroids and other endometriosis. So it's, your first daughter is a miracle. It'll be nice to hear the second miracle with your second daughter.
Yes. So my husband and I said, we had Olivia. We were like, oh my gosh. Well, let me pause for a minute because remember I did IVF.
Yeah.
Did IVF. There were still embryos frozen.
Wow.
So, IVF is not cheap. Now, some people, it depends on insurance, but for us, it was thousands and thousands of dollars. Okay. So it was not, and we were not po, but we po. So, you got to do what you got to do to try to build a family.
Yeah.
So what we were doing, we had our eggs frozen and our embryos frozen. And we had to pay, I think it was $1,000 every month. I can't remember.
Yeah.
You still got to pay
annually. Yeah.
So you don't think about that. So literally, I'm pregnant. I'm 6 months pregnant with Olivia. And my husband says, babe, we can't afford to keep paying this. And now you're pregnant. We can't afford, we have a baby coming. And he was like, we have to decide what to do with these embryos. And I remember holding my belly. I'm 6 months pregnant with our miracle, and I'm literally grieving for our embryos because we couldn't afford it. That's another part of the journey that's not really talked about. What if you get pregnant naturally and you did IVF?
Yeah.
What happens to those embryos? What do you do? So there was 3 options, and we probably everyone that's listening, and I know you probably know, you either donate them to a couple, you throw them away, get rid of them, or you donate them to science. I was so overwhelmed. I'm like, I'm pregnant. I'm already high risk. I don't want to get myself upset. I just told my husband, you decide. So to this day, I don't know what he decided. I said, don't tell me. But that's another layer on the fertility journey that is not talked about.
Yeah.
You can be pregnant and still oh my gosh, my embryos.
Of course.
That's a whole nother layer to this journey. So anyway, so we said, well, we'll wait a year. We're pregnant. We have Olivia Esperanza. Esperanza means hope in Spanish. So it's
Yay.
and hope.
Love it.
Gave me my hope back. Us our hope back. So we said, we'll wait a year, because we got pregnant naturally.
Exactly.
What come on. So a year passes, 2 years passes, 3, 4, 5. And we're like, you know what, 6, 7. We're like, you know what, we're just content. We have 1 child. What? We did not even expect to have 1. So we're like, we're grateful. What do we have nothing to complain about after all we've been through. We have this beautiful daughter. So during COVID, during the pandemic, I was working from home, teleworking at home, and I started to have pain on my left side. I usually don't have pain on my left side. What's going on? My left uterus. That's what I'm thinking is my left uterus. I'm like, my left uterus is the good one. That's where Olivia was. That's another layer too with having a double uterus. You can get pregnant in either one of them. So I got pregnant in my left uterus. If I got pregnant in my right, I would have to have been on bed rest, have a cerclage placed, but thank God pregnant in my left. It's a whole nother layer. So we were grateful. We have Olivia. She keeps asking for a sibling, though. I want a sister. I want a brother. We had this SUV, this truck that we would drive, and she would say, when we have my sister or my brother, they will sit right here next to me.
Wow.
In her mind, she sees all her cousins and her friends at school. They have siblings. She's like, I'm the only child. She would say to us constantly, I just want a sister or brother. You're going to have a baby? And my husband and I were like, this has been years that have passed by. We're like, Olivia, we would tell her, Olivia, it took a lot for us to have you. Mommy and Daddy don't think we're going to have another one. My husband's 4 years older than me. So at the time he was 43. I'm 39. We're like, there's no way we're going to get pregnant. So we're just content. We told Olivia, sorry, honey, we may not have any more children. Then we thought about adoption. So during COVID, during the pandemic, I having pain on my left. So, well, I'm going to my primary care. I said, this is not right. So the old me wouldn't advocate for myself. But the 39-year-old me was like, to my primary care to figure out what's going on. So she starts feeling on my stomach, and I was like, oh, it hurts. She said, I'm sending you to get an ultrasound done. They do an ultrasound. Oh, you have a cyst on your left ovary. I was like, no, I don't believe that. I want a second opinion. I don't believe that. The old me would have been like, okay, I'm going home. No, not today. I don't believe that this is what it is. I need to find out further testing. So they put me in for further testing. They did this procedure where they looked in both uteruses, and they said, well, it looks like you have a lot of polyps in my uteruses. And I'm like, that still doesn't sound right. I forgot that I never had those 3 fibroids removed when I was diagnosed with 20s. I was told back then, don't worry about them. They're not giving you pain. Don't worry about it. Well, over time, they grew. Didn't know. Grew. Found this doctor, another reproductive, or actually a maternal fetal medicine, and she said, you have 3 fibroids and they have grown. You need to have surgery. So in year 2020, I had 3 fibroids removed. Actually, 2021, excuse me, that was the pandemic. So 2021, I had the 3 fibroids removed. In August of 2021, I became pregnant naturally, 6 months after my surgery. And in April of 2022, we had our second miracle, Anaya Grace, because it's only by God's grace that she's here. Yeah. So now we have 2 daughters that are 9 years apart. When you look at them, they tell the story. They literally tell the story. They're 9 years apart because it took 8 years to have the first one and 8 years to have the second. 8 means new beginnings. So each one of them are an example. When I say it's greater than me, if I would have killed myself, there would be no hope or grace. It's bigger than me. So I thank God. 2 daughters, Olivia, cannot explain to see her as a big sister.
Yeah. Oh. Wow. After asking all those years, but they don't know, right? They just think, why can't you just do this for me? Everybody else has 1. Everybody else has 2. Why can't you do this? I mean, God made it happen.
God made it happen. Beyond, it's just beyond my like I can't even explain it. Even though I'm living the life, I still say to my husband, I can't believe we were parents of 2 children. I don't take it for granted. I do not take it for granted at all. So the whole journey, it was worth it. So in all, I've had 4 surgeries in all. Wow. Worth it to have them here.
Huge testimony. Just amazing. All of it. Every aspect of it. And I'm so thankful that you're here with us today and that you're choosing to tell your story, because there's so much to learn from it. So thank you. It really is.
Much.
It is amazing listening.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because for so many, like you said, IVF is so expensive. For some people, they cannot afford to do fertility treatments.
Yeah.
For some listening might have a similar condition, and thinking to themselves, if they can't do IVF, then what is the option?
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that it is still possible, that somehow God can still make a way. So sharing, I think that it definitely inspires and encourages a lot of us listening to you today.
Oh, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. And just, before we wrap up, I know that lots of people have made comments in the so far. But if you could go back in time, Lana, what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
Ooh, I would tell her that she's enough, just as you are, just as you look, just how you feel. You are enough. Don't let anyone, anything, any obstacle on the outside change who you are. You define you. And most of all, God defines you. Don't ever give up. That's what I would tell her. Don't give up. The journey that you're about to go on, you may feel hopeless on the journey, but there's greatness in you. There's still purpose in you. Don't ever lose hope. That's what I would tell her. If I could, I would hug her. If I could, those silent tears, those times just crying on my pillow, screaming, being upset, crying in my mother's lap. Oh my gosh, just, because my oldest sister is 4 years older than me. She has 4 girls, and she got pregnant. And I remember her third child, she called my mom and said, "Hey, mommy, I want to let you know I'm pregnant." And so my mom, she's in the grocery store with my father. And my mother starts jumping in the grocery store. She's jumping and hopping around. She's like, "Oh my gosh," and my mom's screaming. And my sister Sarah said, "No, it's me, Sarah." And my mom said, "Oh, I thought you were Anna."
Oh, wow.
So it's so amazing to be where I am now, but I will never forget my 20s and into my 30s. I will never forget those years. Never.
Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone watching in today, still going through their own fertility journey, what are your words of encouragement that you'd like to share?
Yes. Be encouraged. Sometimes you have to encourage yourself. Maybe other people may not understand what you're going through, but please encourage yourself. Hold close to your spouse, because there's men that have issues with fertility. Suffer in silence. So easy to just keep what you're feeling inside, but it's not healthy. It's not. If you are feeling like you're in a whirlwind, you're in a storm, you need to talk to someone. You need to speak up. You need to use your words. You need to let people know how you're feeling. And also, when you go to your doctor, advocate for yourself. They may say one thing, but like, I don't agree with that. Can I get a second opinion? You have every right to ask for a second opinion, a third opinion, a fourth opinion. If they don't want to listen to you, if they don't have good bedside manner, ask for another doctor. It's your body, it's your decisions between you and your spouse, or you and your partner, whoever you're with. Make sure you advocate for yourself. Speak up for yourself. No one has the right to talk about your uterus, and in my case 2 uteruses. They can't say, well, because of you have a double uterus, we only can do it this way. Well, there could be another way. There could be another option. Also with fibroids, if you have fibroids and they say, don't worry about the fibroids, hey, is this really a good thing not to worry about them? Because it may affect your future. That's what happened for me. So please speak up for yourself and know that you are loved. You are not alone. We are in this fight together, and we're going to stand strong together no matter what.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So well said. And if you're not following Lana, please follow her right away on Instagram. She really is amazing. And you can connect, you can reach out to her. If you have questions, if you want to if you just want someone to speak to, please reach out to her. She really does. She's really someone great to speak to, and I think that just connecting with someone who understands, someone who can support you, someone who can listen to you, can be so important in different aspects of the fertility journey. Lana, before we wrap up, anything else you want to share or speak about, please go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to tell you thank you. I appreciate you. You are part of my sisterhood, and I just grateful for the woman that you are and all that you are doing for our community, how you continue to share and, inspire us all and inform people. You're so informative. You inform so many people about the different things dealing with your fertility journey. So I just really appreciate you, and I'm grateful that we are connected. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone that has joined us today, for Hers Guiding, for Ayi Kitito, Olu Funke, Sunny, everyone that's joined us today and commented, Mudupe, I Just Special, Vuvu Cakes, Zialis. I know there's a whole lot of ladies and men that have joined us today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lana, for deciding, forming out this condition that you have with the double uterus and double cervix. I think that for many, that will be the first time they've heard about this. So I think it's important that we know, and if we have girls, daughters, friends that might be having some of the symptoms that was mentioned earlier, or even if not, you can just research about it to know more about it. Let's advocate for ourselves, like Lana said. If you have certain symptoms, see a doctor. If you're not still satisfied, see another doctor. It's important that we speak out for ourselves and continue to advocate for ourselves. Oh, one question.
Yes, she said, I want to ask a question. Is endometriosis a thing we should worry about? Because I'm worried and I don't know how to feel. I have read a lot on it and I don't like what I see. Yes, and it's something to worry about. If you are diagnosed with endometriosis, please, for proper help, productive endocrinologist, an OBGYN, a GYN, someone that can help direct your path on what to do with your endometriosis. Sometimes you need to have surgery. It's, for me, I had to have surgery, but I am someone, once you have endometriosis, you will always have it. So you'll have flare-ups. Certain foods will make you have a flare-up. So definitely talk to your doctor. If they told you that you have endometriosis, please talk to your doctor and find out what's the best course of action for you and your situation. But definitely endometriosis is not something to play with.
Yeah, definitely. And it's endometriosis awareness month. So I think there's a lot of information as well on social media about this. And again, so it's good to research. And of course, please follow Lana as well and reach out to her. She might be able to also point you out to certain resources or people that you can contact to know more about it. Yes. So thank you all so much for joining us today. It really has been amazing listening to you, Lana. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for always raising awareness, for educating us, for sharing your story and your truth, for in spite of the stigmas attached to infertility. Thank you for choosing to share and to continue to encourage us all that there is hope. Hope still stands. That's such a lovely, I love it. So thank you for that, all you're doing, and for all that you continue to do. So thank you all for joining us today. And this video will also be saved and shared on both our platforms and also on YouTube. So if there's other topics that you'd like us to speak about next time, please reach out to myself or Lana, and we can certainly talk about it another live. So thank you all and have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.